This is the exercise 4 narration. We'll begin with our exercise 4 folder. And so this is what it should look like after doing some things. First off, I've extracted all the information, so we've still got a lot of big files. So the Indy neighborhood zip file is no longer zipped, and it's also been removed. And so what I've done is I've removed the big unzipped massive files. And so once I've extracted things, I've only kept what I've needed thus far. Now we'll go ahead and we'll open up our ArcGIS Pro. And before starting our map, before creating a new map, we need to do something. So that something is to go in the bottom left of this open screen and choose settings. Very important. And so what you're going to do then is choose licensing. Scroll down, make sure configure licensing options. Click that, make sure it's highlighted. And then down here, click on spatial analyst. Make sure that it's checked. So we want that box checked. And so if you come across an issue later on in this particular exercise, the first tip might be to come back and make sure the spatial analyst is checked. Click on OK, and we'll go ahead and we'll start creating our new map. And like all of our things, we'll save it in the particular folder we're working it on. And like all of our previous exercises, we'll store it in the current folder. And this one is exercise 4, wherever you like to store things. So I've stored it on my particular desktop. And this, we'll call it exercise _4. Click on OK. Do the usual remove. Then go over to the catalog pane. One of the things you're going to have to do is you'll notice this is going to the exercise 4 folder. So what I did is at the opening dialog box, I accidentally created my own folder. So that's why there might be appearing to be nothing in there. We need to right click on folder, add folder connection, and make sure we're going to the bigger exercise 4 folder. That's why I don't like to create a new exercise 4 folder, because it can kind of create redundancy and can kind of be confusing. So that's just something to keep in mind. We're going to connect to the bigger exercise 4 folder, not the one that's created from ArcGIS, its own project folder. Because what we'll notice is in exercise 04, this is where we'll have all of the rasters. So that's something good to do here, is to expand this over so we can see more. And we've got all of these particular bands. Now it's important, we can go ahead, we could throw them into the contents pane, but we don't need to. Because instead of having 7 or I guess 11 individual ones, we just want to have 7 bands that are combined into one particular raster image. And so to do that, we'll go to Analysis, then Tools, and search for Composite Bands. Click on it. For the input rasters, click on the yellow folder. Make sure to go back up to your exercise 4 folder. Want to expand this as much as possible so we can actually see what we're clicking on. And we want to highlight the first 7. So I'm going to click on the first one, B1.tift, hold down the Shift key, and then go down to B7, then click OK. Next, it's important to make sure the order is correct. We have them in chronologic order. That is the case. If not, we can move them around by playing with these particular rectangles that show up. So you can kind of drag them and move them around as you wish. But we have them in this case the proper order, so we're good to go. Now for the output raster, click on the folder. And so we're in the right folder. Okay, good. So we're going to call this Landsat Composite 1. Very important, .img. So it's very important that we add the .img. Click Save, and then Run. And that took me 4.5 minutes for my computer to do this particular task. So you should see a particular image here, but it's useful. We need to do more with it. But first off, let's go make sure everything looks good. And so what you do is you right-click on the new image, the properties. Let's take a look at the source. Raster information, in terms of cell size, 30, that's what we want. 7 bands, okay, cool. It's a image, we know that, .img, 16-bit, okay, good to go. And so make sure yours is the same. Now what we're going to do is then right-click. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click back, make sure that the title is clicked, so we have a blue box here, whatever color box it might be for your particular ArcGIS Pro. And then we see raster layer at the top, then click on appearance. Then in appearance, click on the band combination, come down to custom. What we're going to do is we're going to set the red band to 5, the green to 4, and the blue to 3. We're going to call this 5, 4, 3 with hyphens there and add that. And so what we've done now is we've created a particular new image we can see clearly now. So this is using the infrared band in particular. We can see the reds really show themselves, and the reds are the vegetation. And so we can then really see this when we play around with the bands. So we can play looking at different combinations. In this case, 5, 4, and 3 is very useful for what we're trying to do. So now we're ready for the NDVI function. Now, something I like to do at this particular point is to kind of zoom into my particular study area. Pretty much know it's going to be in this bottom corner here. You can kind of already see the particular lake features, or really they're just dammed up rivers. So we got the Geist Reservoir, we've got Eagle Creek, so you can see the airport. If I zoom in real close, you can see downtown Indianapolis, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the golf course associated with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So the vegetation areas really stand out here in this particular combination, showing the red as vegetation. So now we need to calculate the NDVI function. To do that, we'll go to Analysis. Then over here, Raster Functions. Click on Raster Functions. We could search for the NDVI, but it's also shown right here. So just go ahead and click on NDVI. In terms of the raster, we're going to set the Landsat composite1.image. Our visible band, this is very important. Our visible band is 4 and the infrared band is 5. Then we want to make sure to click on the scientific output option and then create new layer. Now before I play around with the symbology, we want to make this permanent. This is actually kind of just a temporary image here. So we'll go ahead and we'll right click here, Data, and then Export Raster. We'll leave everything as is, but we just need to make sure we save this particular output raster data set. Make sure we go to our exercise 4 folder. In this case, let's give it a name, ndvi_image.img. Click Save, and then Export. Now go ahead and remove this previous one. So make sure you're removing the right one. So we want to keep the NDVI image.image. So the one at the top, so we'll remove. And a nice other thing you can do is if you click on the NDVI image, make sure that's highlighted. Then go to Appearance, click on Swipe, and what it'll do is it'll compare the top 2 layers. Now, we haven't really massaged much of the symbology yet, so we'll do more of that here. But this is kind of a neat little tool in which you can swipe, and what it does is it compares the top and the next to the top particular layer over here in the contents drawing order. We're going to change the symbology, so right click, then choose symbology. Over here in the symbology color scheme, the stretch type, there's a variety that we can choose, and it just depends on the data. Remote sensing, as I've read and watched and seen, experts say it's more of an art than anything. So it's almost kind of choosing which colors really look the best. And in this case, the percent clip does a really good job of drawing contrast. So we can see the negative ones, the places that don't have vegetation, i.e. rivers, of course, don't have vegetation. Downtown urban areas don't have vegetation. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway track doesn't have. So you can see where the -1 features really stand out. Meanwhile, cemeteries, parks, more suburban, more rural areas have more of a brighter or a 1 or a positive number, in this case red, in this particular symbology indicative of high vegetation. But we're going to choose a better color scheme than this. But before we do that, let's go ahead and go to Mask, something important, Display Background Value. That just is, we zoom out to this particular map. So what we just did was we essentially turned that back and it's now black. Previously it was yellow. So you can see that, or blue, sorry, you can see the differences. And so it just makes all the background 0 or null or black in this case. Now let's go play around with the color scheme. We're wanting something in which it shows, in this case, -1 is going to be red and a +1 is green. That makes sense. Places with high vegetation or a value closest to a +1 are going to be colored green on a map. So one of the things is if you don't see green to red at first, or red to green I should say, you can go to show all, and it'll have all of the schemes. This is just probably a fraction, probably 20% of all the variety of colors that are available. So here is red to green, and this showcases a problem that's in ArcGIS Pro. Over here, this is all correct. The symbology pane is correct in terms of -1 red, +1 green, but we go over here and we notice that's not the case. So this is a known error, a known issue that for some reason has not been fixed over probably close to 2 years of people complaining about it, but nonetheless we can still work with that. So what we need to do is over here, now right click and then choose reverse color scheme, and then click on the NDVI image, and that'll help to actually get that done. So now we see the green areas really showcase where we see vegetation, and the red areas, very much the built environment, really are shown here. Now that we've created our NDVI image and played around with the symbology to show red areas being where we don't have vegetation and green areas where we do, let's now lay on top of this particular ND neighborhoods a particular layer. So we'll want to go to our catalog pane, ND neighborhoods, right click, add to current map, and I'll remove some of these panes so we can see a little bit more what we're looking at. We want to change the symbology, just do the black outline, and now I want to zoom to this particular layer. So now we have the ND layers over time, so we can see which neighborhoods are already quite evident as far as which ones are the greenest. They're quite obvious, they can almost stick out at us, but let's do some geographic analysis of this.